For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of a clear day in 1998, 29-year-old Sahana Patel set out from a remote trailhead in Arizona's Grand Canyon, intending to complete a challenging rim-to-river day hike. She never arrived. Despite an extensive search by park rangers and volunteers, Sahana vanished without a trace, her footprints erased by swift desert storms. For 2 decades, her family lived with agonizing uncertainty, holding onto a sliver of hope in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. Then in 2018, deep within a remote slot canyon off Tapats Creek, a discovery was made. A sun-faded backpack, wedged in the narrow rock, its shoulder strap inexplicably sliced. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Sahana Patel. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. The Grand Canyon, a chasm carved by time and water, stands as one of Earth's most profound natural wonders. Its immense scale, a mile deep and 277 miles long, offers unparalleled beauty but conceals an equal measure of peril. In 1998, this ancient landscape became the backdrop for a mystery that would endure for 2 decades. It was a place where the unwary, or even the highly prepared, could vanish without a trace. Among those who sought to navigate its intricate trails was Sahana Patel, a 29-year-old graduate geologist. Her passion for the Earth's formations drew her to places like the Grand Canyon, where every layer told a story. Sahana was not a novice. She was an experienced solo hiker, meticulous in her planning and well-versed in wilderness safety. Her gear was top of the line, her physical conditioning excellent, and her understanding of geology provided a unique appreciation for the terrain she traversed. She represented the ideal of a capable adventurer, prepared for the challenges the canyon might present. Her plan for September 1998 was ambitious but within her capabilities: a day hike, a rim-to-river loop. Such an endeavor, descending from the plateau to the Colorado River and ascending again, is a formidable test of endurance, typically requiring an overnight stay for most. For Sahana, it was a familiar challenge, a common pursuit for experienced hikers seeking to push their limits. Yet, even for the most prepared, the canyon holds unpredictable dangers, from extreme heat to sudden weather shifts. Sahana set out as planned, her intentions clear, her route meticulously detailed in her permit. Her last confirmed interaction was at the trailhead, a brief exchange with another hiker before she disappeared into the vastness. When the scheduled check-in time passed without contact, and then the following morning brought no word, a quiet alarm began to spread. The absence of a call from Sahana, so uncharacteristic of her disciplined nature, signaled that something had gone terribly wrong. Almost immediately after her disappearance, the canyon itself seemed to conspire against any immediate search efforts. Severe storms rolled in, unleashing torrential rains across the region. These downpours, while a natural occurrence, had a devastating impact on the nascent investigation. They washed away any potential footprints, obscured trail markers, and dramatically altered the immediate environment, effectively erasing the most crucial early clues that might have led searchers to Sahana. The wilderness had swallowed her, and the subsequent weather ensured that no immediate trace remained. The Grand Canyon, in its immutable power, had claimed another secret. The alarm for Sahana Patel's disappearance quickly escalated into a full-scale search and rescue operation. Park services mobilized rapidly, deploying ground teams, helicopters, and K-9 units, augmented by a dedicated corps of volunteers familiar with the canyon's labyrinthine trails. The sheer scale of the Grand Canyon, however, presented an immediate and formidable adversary. Its vastness, marked by countless side canyons, hidden ledges, and dense vegetation in certain areas, rendered traditional grid searches almost impossible. Every mile covered felt like a drop in an ocean, Each cliff faced a potential hiding place or a tragic final resting spot. Backcountry Ranger Joel Hanks, a veteran of countless search operations within the park, found himself at the forefront of these efforts. He understood intimately the canyon's capacity to conceal. The recent storms, which had initially complicated the reporting of Sahana's absence, now actively sabotaged the search. Torrential rains had not only erased any potential footprints Sahana might have left, but also triggered localized rockfalls and minor flash floods, further altering the landscape. These natural events could have easily obscured a trail, buried a small piece of gear, or even moved a person or their belongings to an entirely new, unforeseen location. The wilderness was not merely vast. It was actively hostile to investigation. Despite the exhaustive efforts, the search teams encountered a frustrating and ultimately devastating void. There was no sign of Sahana, no discarded water bottle, no torn piece of fabric, no broken branch indicating passage, not even a faint trace of her specialized hiking boots. The absence of any tangible evidence was perhaps the most chilling aspect. It was as if Sahana Patel had simply ceased to exist within the canyon's boundaries, leaving behind no clue to her fate. This complete lack of findings deepened the despair among the searchers, a grim realization settling in that the Grand Canyon had, once again, swallowed one of its visitors whole. As days turned into weeks, the initial surge of hope and frantic activity slowly receded. Resources, both human and financial, were finite, and the probability of finding Sahana alive diminished with each passing hour. The painful but inevitable decision was made to scale back the active search. What began as an urgent rescue mission transitioned into a prolonged recovery effort, then ultimately, a cold case file. The Grand Canyon had offered no answers, leaving behind only the haunting silence of an unsolved mystery and the enduring question of what had truly happened to Sahana Patel. The frantic energy of the initial search for Sahana Patel eventually faded into the relentless march of time. Weeks blurred into months, months into years. The calendar pages turned from 1998 to the dawn of a new millennium, then to the early 2000s, a decade, and finally, almost 2 decades. With each passing season, the Grand Canyon continued its timeless cycle, its towering walls witnessing countless sunrises and sunsets, but offering no new revelations regarding Sahana's fate. The vibrant green of spring, the scorching heat of summer, the crisp air of autumn, and the rare dusting of winter snow all came and went. Yet the silence surrounding her disappearance remained unbroken. Sahana Patel's case, once an urgent missing persons alert, slowly but inevitably transitioned into the cold case files. Her name became an entry in a ledger of unsolved mysteries, a thick folder shelved in an archive, revisited only periodically by dedicated but ultimately frustrated investigators. Without a body, without a shred of physical evidence beyond her initial permit, there was no definitive conclusion to be drawn. The official designation offered no comfort, only the stark acknowledgement that the truth remained elusive. For those who remembered Sahana, and for the authorities tasked with understanding her vanishing, the unanswered questions festered. Every conceivable scenario had been considered and reconsidered over the years. Had she suffered a fall into one of the canyon's many unseen crevices? Had she become disoriented and succumbed to the elements, her body simply never found in the vastness? Could an animal attack have occurred, though evidence for such events is rare and often distinctive? Was it possible she had simply gotten lost, wandered off-trail, and slowly succumbed to dehydration or exposure? Each hypothesis, however plausible in theory, lacked any tangible support. The canyon provided no answers, allowing conjecture to fill the void where facts should have been. The Grand Canyon, in its immutable majesty, has always been known for its capacity to hold secrets. Throughout its recorded history, countless individuals have ventured into its depths, some never to return, their disappearances often attributed to the canyon itself. a silent, powerful force that reclaims its own. Sahana Patel's story became another entry in this grim ledger, a testament to the wilderness's ultimate power. For her family and friends, the lack of resolution meant an enduring, profound grief, a permanent state of limbo where hope and despair wrestled without end. The canyon had not merely taken a life, it had stolen closure. 2 decades had passed since Sahana Patel vanished into the Grand Canyon's vastness, her case a LD file, her fate an enduring mystery. The year was now 2018. The canyon continued its slow, inexorable carving, indifferent to the human dramas played out within its walls. Yet the wilderness, in its own unpredictable way, was about to surrender a secret it had held for 20 years. Trent Yazzie, a seasoned canyoneer, possessed an intimate knowledge of the Grand Canyon's most secluded corners. Unlike many who traversed its well-worn trails, Yazzie sought out the hidden arteries, the narrow, sinuous slot canyons that few ever encountered. His expertise allowed him to navigate the treacherous, often claustrophobic passages, rappelling into unseen chasms and squeezing through impossibly tight squeezes. It was on one such expedition, deep within a remote side canyon branching off Tapats Creek, an area far from any established route Sahana might have taken, that Yazzie made his astonishing discovery. The air in the slot was cool and still, the light filtering in as thin shafts from above, illuminating ancient rock formations. Yazzie was carefully maneuvering through a particularly constricted section, a place where the canyon walls narrowed to mere inches, when his headlamp caught an anomaly. Wedged tightly between the unyielding rock faces, almost perfectly camouflaged by years of dust and shadow, was a backpack. It was sun-faded to a pale, indistinct hue, its fabric brittle with age, its once vibrant colors long since bleached by the relentless Arizona sun. It was clearly not recent debris. The pack was old, battered, and bore the unmistakable marks of prolonged exposure to the elements. Yazzie, accustomed to finding remnants of past flash floods or discarded gear, immediately recognized this item as different. It was too deliberately placed, too deeply entrenched in the slot's grip, to be mere casual litter. A closer inspection revealed a crucial detail that transformed the find from an interesting curiosity into a potential breakthrough. One of the shoulder straps had not simply frayed or rotted away, it was cleanly sliced, as if cut with a sharp blade. This was not the work of time or water. It suggested a desperate, intentional act, perhaps an urgent attempt to shed the pack in a moment of extreme duress. The implications were immediate and profound. This was not just a lost item, it was a relic of a past struggle, a silent witness to a moment of crisis. Yazzie, understanding the gravity of his find, carefully documented its location and appearance before reporting it to park authorities. Within days, the sun-faded pack, extracted from its ancient tomb, was formally identified as belonging to Sahana Patel. The cold case, dormant for 2 decades, was dramatically reopened, a fragile thread of hope woven into the enduring mystery of her disappearance. The discovery of Sahana Patel's backpack, 20 years after her vanishing, sent a jolt through the Grand Canyon National Park Service. What had long been a closed file, a tragic but unsolvable mystery, was suddenly alive again, imbued with a fragile new hope. Investigators retrieved the faded case file from 1998, its contents yellowed with age, and began the arduous process of cross-referencing old reports with this startling new piece of evidence. The initial search maps, the witness statements, the weather reports from that fateful September, all were pulled from their archival slumber, now viewed through the lens of this unexpected breakthrough. The cold case, once a symbol of the canyon's impenetrable secrets, was officially reactivated. The pack itself became the immediate focus of intense scrutiny. Forensic technicians meticulously transported it to a specialized lab, where it was treated not merely as a piece of gear, but as a potential time capsule. Every seam, every pocket, Every frayed thread was examined under magnification. The process involved carefully sifting through the accumulated dust and debris of 2 decades, searching for any remaining contents, however minuscule. Inside, among the remnants of dried mud and plant matter, a few items were identifiable. A compass, corroded but intact, a small, sealed plastic bag containing what appeared to be geological samples, and a faded park permit with Sahana Patel's name clearly visible. The identification was undeniable. This was indeed Sahana's pack, confirming the link to the 1998 disappearance and cementing the gravity of the find. However, the most compelling and perplexing detail remained the laced shoulder strap. Investigators pondered its implications. Was it a deliberate act of self-preservation, a desperate attempt by Sahana to free herself from the weight of the pack in an emergency? Had she been caught in a tight squeeze, or perhaps in rushing water, forcing her to shed the burden to escape? Or did it suggest a more troubling scenario, an interaction with another individual, though the remote location and the lack of other evidence made this less likely? The cut was clean, precise, suggesting the use of a sharp tool rather than a tear from snagging. This single detail opened a new avenue of inquiry, pushing investigators to consider the circumstances of her final moments with renewed urgency. Beyond the pack's contents and its damaged strap, the fundamental question of its location persisted. How had Sahana Patel's pack, and by extension, Sahana herself, ended up wedged in a remote, narrow slot canyon off Taypats Creek, an area far removed from her planned rim-to-river route? This was not a place one simply wandered into by accident, especially an experienced hiker like Sahana. The canyon's topography in that particular area was exceptionally challenging, suggesting an involuntary journey or an unforeseen force had deposited it there. Conventional forensic methods, while invaluable for initial identification, were proving insufficient to explain these complex questions of movement and environment over such a long span of time. It became clear that to truly unravel the mystery, a different kind of expertise would be required, one that could interpret the subtle, enduring clues left behind by the canyon itself. The discovery of Sahana Patel's pack had reopened a cold case, but it presented more questions than answers. Traditional forensic methods offered little further insight into how the pack, and Sahana, ended up in such an improbable location. The canyon, with its vastness and the passage of 2 decades, had erased most conventional clues. To unearth the truth, investigators recognized the need for an unconventional approach, turning to the microscopic world for answers. Their search led them to Dr. Keely Monroe, a botanist with a specialized expertise in palynology, the study of pollen and spores. Dr. Monroe was tasked with examining the sun-faded pack, specifically its mesh and fabric, for any trace of organic material. Pollen, invisible to the naked eye, is a remarkably resilient biological marker. Each grain, unique to its plant species, acts as a tiny time capsule, capable of surviving for decades, even centuries, and can reveal precise environmental conditions and geographical origins. It adheres to surfaces, carried by wind or water, providing a silent record of where an object has been and when. Under Dr. Monroe's high-powered microscopes, the seemingly inert dust trapped within the pack's weathered fibers began to tell a story. Her meticulous analysis yielded a crucial finding: a specific and unusual type of pollen embedded deep within the mesh. This particular pollen belonged to a plant species known to thrive only in very particular, ephemeral conditions within the Grand Canyon, blooming for a remarkably short period, typically only after significant rainfall. It indicated a short-lived flowering zone, a transient botanical event. The presence of this specific pollen suggested that Sahana or her pack had been in this precise, rare flowering zone at the exact time of its bloom. This botanical clue was a significant breakthrough, but its full implication required further investigation. Dr. Monroe's findings prompted investigators to cross-reference her pollen data with historical hydrographs, detailed records of water flow, rainfall, and flash flood events within the Grand Canyon. These hydrological charts, meticulously maintained by the Park Service, provided a timeline of water activity, allowing researchers to pinpoint periods of heavy rain and subsequent water surges in the Taypats Creek area around 1998. The convergence of the botanical and hydrological data was astonishing. The hydrographs revealed a powerful flash flood backflow event that had occurred in the side canyon off Taypats Creek precisely during the short window when Dr. Monroe's identified plant species would have been in bloom. A backflow occurs when a sudden surge of water from a main channel pushes upstream into a tributary or side canyon. This powerful, temporary current, moving against the usual flow, could have created an intense siphoning effect. The theory emerged: Sahana, perhaps caught by the sudden inundation or forced into an unfamiliar passage by the storms, could have been swept into this flash flood. The unique backflow event occurring at that exact time and location would have then siphoned her, or at least her pack, into a hidden pour-off or an unseen, narrow slot, where it remained trapped for 2 decades. The microscopic pollen had finally revealed the canyon's long-held secret. The scientific convergence of Dr. Monroe's palynology and the historical hydrographs painted a vivid, albeit tragic, picture of Sahana Patel's final moments. The most plausible scenario began with the severe storms that had swept through the Grand Canyon shortly after her disappearance in 1998. Sahana, an experienced hiker, would have been acutely aware of the dangers of flash floods, but the canyon's unpredictability proved to be her ultimate undoing. It is now believed that she was caught in a sudden, powerful surge of water in the side canyon off Taypats Creek. The unique backflow event, identified by the hydrographs and corroborated by the specific, short-lived pollen found on her pack, would have created a temporary, but immensely powerful, current. This backflow, moving against the natural downstream flow, acted as a siphon, pulling everything in its path, including Sahana, into an unseen, narrow pour-off or a deeply hidden slot canyon. The sliced shoulder strap, once a perplexing detail, now made chilling sense. It was likely a desperate, last-ditch effort by Sahana to shed the heavy pack, perhaps to free herself from its weight as she was inexorably pulled into the constricted passage, a struggle against an overwhelming force of nature. This scientific explanation, painstakingly pieced together 2 decades later, finally offered a concrete, theoretical understanding of Sahana Patel's vanishing. Her disappearance was no longer an inexplicable mystery, but a tragic consequence of the Grand Canyon's raw, unpredictable power, combined with a precise confluence of environmental conditions. The canyon had not simply swallowed her. It had, through a rare hydrological phenomenon, siphoned her into an inescapable trap, a hidden grave that held its secret for 20 years. For the Park Service, and for those who had long grappled with the cold case, this breakthrough offered a profound, if somber, form of closure. While Sahana Patel's remains may never be recovered from the deep, inaccessible confines of that hidden slot, the scientific reconstruction provided a definitive narrative. It shifted her status from an unsolved mystery to a documented natural disaster, a testament to the canyon's unyielding might. Sahana's story serves as a potent reminder of the Grand Canyon's enduring power, a force that commands respect even from the most seasoned adventurers. Its breathtaking beauty coexists with inherent dangers, and even a highly prepared and intelligent individual like Sahana Patel can fall victim to its unpredictable forces. Her case, tragically, underscores that the wilderness, despite all human preparation, ultimately dictates its own terms. 2 decades later, Sahana Patel's story, illuminated by innovative scientific methods, not only unravels a long-held mystery, but also offers crucial lessons about the canyon's hidden perils, demonstrating how cutting-edge science can finally bring understanding to even the most intractable cold cases.